good evening, good day, wherever you are watching. Welcome to Dads for Truth with yours truly, Ray, and my partner, John, over there on the other side of town. How are you, sir?
I am awesome. How are you, brother?
I am enjoying the last few days before it gets hot. That's for sure.
Yeah, spring out here is like a week long, and then it goes from like 70 to 120.
Well, we've had it pretty good. I mean, it's everybody living in the world, you got something that you brought hot summer, cold summer, unless you live in a certain part of the world where it's 75 all the time, like Hawaii maybe. But other than that,
Ooh.
But hey, you know what? We adapt. So it just is what it is. So welcome everybody. Small talk aside, John's got 3 thrilling videos. I'm sure there's a lot. I can't believe what's going on. There's so much going on. It's just between the Trump trials and the Israel-Hamas situation and the fighting in the Senate and Congress, it's absolutely crazy. So, without further ado, I know you've got a lot to talk about. So
yeah, let's get to the video because we could be here
like
we
got a lot to go over. So
all right,
do that, and let's roll with it. Hopefully you can see that. You all good?
Good.
Then why do you call for an intifada? Do you know what the intifada means? What's the definition of an intifada? I'm asking you. Can you answer this simple question? No, you cannot, because you don't understand the definition. An intifada is an armed resistance. You chant, globalize the intifada. You're calling for the mass genocide of Jews. That is what you're doing. You might not know you're doing this.
I think it's honestly despicable.
But you are.
It's despicable that you guys are using the Holocaust or any of this to like say that we are still trying to do it. Like, no, that is not true.
So that's a pro-Palestinian student at UCLA interrupting an NBC News interview with a Jewish student.
All right, so John, question for you. You want to keep going with the video, or you want to, so far?
Yes. Keep going for I think 5 minutes should be good.
All right.
Earlier this week, which, as you can see, sparked an intense debate between the two. Joining us now, co-chair of the House Problem Solvers Caucus, Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer of the state of New Jersey. He co-authored new legislation that passed in the House on Wednesday to broaden the definition of anti-Semitism, and we know President Biden will be speaking on Tuesday on that very topic. Congressman, thanks for joining us this morning. First, let's just start with your reaction to that moment that we just played for you, and then more broadly, the unrest you've seen on college campuses across the country in recent days.
I mean, shocking is only one way to describe it, but we've seen so many comments and chants and over the last months, which I just can't believe any student would scream out at anyone, right? Whether it's pro-Hamas, supporting Hamas, calling for 1,000 or 10,000 more October 7th, death to Zionists, kill the Jews. All of this is totally unacceptable, as it would be of hate of any kind against any student on our college campuses.
Josh, it's Palmieri. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Tell us about the legislation that passed the House yesterday. Tell us about why, what's in it, why it's needed. I know that some Democrats voted against it. Jerry Nadler voted against it. He cited that he had free speech concerns. But tell us why it's needed, and I know that you've responded to those free speech concerns.
Sure, and in my opinion, and as well as 320 others in the House, there's nothing controversial about what we said, which was defining what anti-Semitism is for the purposes of Title VI discrimination on college campuses, so that there's actually meat on the bone of what the definition of anti-Semitism is, which, as you know, is one of the things that the Department of Education looks at when it looks at discrimination on a college campus, where we should have which is no place for hate. And what's important about people know about this is that 3 administrations now, Democrat and Republican administrations, actually have been using this definition. It's called the IRA definition, as well as 30 plus states, countries around the world. So there's nothing controversial about it. And it definitely protect, which is I think the key point here. It protects speech, so which I believe deeply in. It allows people, of course, to criticize Israel or to speak out. What it doesn't allow is for hatred, intimidation, and violence, driven, of course, by anti-Semitism, which we're seeing on far too many college campuses.
So John, I'm going to stop right there for a moment, John.
No, that's you know what? That's a great place to stop. I have a lot to say about this, but I want to see what you
I'm
after
gonna
this.
take it from a perspective of being half Iranian. Okay, so first of all, I hate to say idiots, but most of these students, these are supposed to be educated students. The first part with the girl, it's nonsense. She has no idea what she's talking about, and you can tell she's not very intelligent because she can barely finish sentences. I'm not sure how these people become students at a major college, but that's UCLA from what could tell. So
Yep.
my dad went to UCLA, got his master's degree. My dad's a smart man. But let me tell you, they don't even know what things mean. They say these chants, intifada. They want Sharia law enforced. They have no idea. These kids are basically told. Half of them aren't even from that school. Don't even know what it's about. They've never traveled abroad. They have no idea. And for that girl to say, "Oh, I'm tired of you using the Holocaust," you stupid, stupid person.
Yeah.
Talking about a gassing of millions of people that were brought on trains, told they were being moved, and then killed by the thousands at a time. She's going to
Yes.
compare it to Palestinians who, again, 80% support Hamas, who attacked Israel and killed people again, put babies in ovens, killed women 3-4 at a time, and then you have that it's just garbage. And then you have, and I don't know the record of this particular congressperson, but good for him for at least trying. I don't want them to redefine it in a different way. I want them to clarify it. If they're talking about passing a bill that's going to criminalize this kind of stuff on campuses, I'm all for it. If you go out, if you saw some of the videos of them chasing down Israeli students,
Yep.
it's disgusting. This kid was falling over bushes into the corner. 5-6 idiot American 18, 19-year-old white kids, just stupid morons doing this stuff. It's disgusting. And they should criminalize it, and they should put these kids in jail. And if anybody from Hollywood goes and pays their bail, we should post that all over the internet, because it's crap and it's disgusting and it's got to stop. So that's where I'm at.
Well, so first of all, yeah, the first thing I noticed when I watched that video is that, yeah, the girl trying to make her argument, like you said, she could barely spit out a sentence. That's the first thing. Never mind know what an intifada is. Here's the thing about the bill. Though I went through and read it because I was curious as to what it said. And it really, most of these bills are hundreds of pages long. This was a page and a half, maybe 2 pages long. It wasn't long at all. I am, just like you are, very pro-Israel. I think what's going on in these campuses is terrible and disgusting. And I agree with you that, yeah, they should be posting these people's faces online so they don't get jobs anywhere.
Yeah.
The bill, though, if you read the bill, it really is more of a political statement. It doesn't really do anything. Now, I will say, I am very happy that the congressman there, is a Democrat and that he's pushing, at least appearing to push to get this dealt with. But the bill itself, all it says is it refers back to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and it says under the Civil Rights Act, any kind of discrimination, based upon religion, sex, color is, of course, illegal. And then it says anti-Semitism will be defined based upon the definition given by the IHRA. I think it's International Holocaust Remembrance Association or something like that. It doesn't actually define it itself. That's one of my concerns. It just talks about referring back to the IHRA.
So it doesn't have any criminal impact or anything like that, where it
No.
states, okay, this is where it crosses the line into a criminal act of some kind.
In other words, what they're saying is, they're not making any changes. They're just trying to. They said they're trying to define what anti-Semitism is. Is what the bill is supposed to do, but it doesn't do that. It refers you to another organization.
So what do you think is going to be the effect? I mean, if they're just simply, and I like that it's getting some attention.
Yes,
which is good. Sometimes some of these, we're going into an election cycle. Sometimes these congressmen and senators do things for a little bit of attention. So I'm wondering if it's all just smoke and mirrors, and there's no teeth to it. What's the point? What's the point of bringing it up, in Congress for any sort of resolution? It's kind of like an empty resolution, really, if that's the case.
Basically that's what it is. Here's the funny thing. The funny thing is, I started looking into it because of some ridiculous claims by some Republicans, and being conservative, being conservative. I'm like, but I'm going to be honest. In this case, the Democrat that we saw, at least by appearances, seems more right on. And let me explain. We got our friend there, MTG, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I'm starting not to like her very much.
I used to think she was cool because she had some balls and she was gonna, but now she's just off her mind.
She's kind of like the AOC of the Republican Party now.
Yeah. So what she was saying, along with a handful of other Republicans, that said they didn't want to sign the bill, like I can understand not wanting to sign it because it doesn't have any teeth, but what they were saying is, well, it's not going to allow me to talk about the gospel and talk about the Bible. It'll make it illegal, right? Because but if I say that the Jewish people crucified Christ, then that's anti-Semitism. Okay, there's a whole lot wrong with that statement right there.
Yeah.
One, a person like that who makes that claim doesn't know anything about the Bible.
Right.
Oh, right. And so therefore you can tell that she and some of these other people are just Christian, because it forwards their political career. Because the Jewish people did not crucify Jesus. Right? It was a handful of Jewish leaders. Right?
Well, the Roman leadership was part of it as well.
Yes. So okay. So what happened is, just to break it down real quick, the Jewish religious leadership, was afraid that Jesus was going to take away their power, went to Rome, right? And convinced Rome that this guy was dangerous and was going to try to overthrow the Roman Empire. But it wasn't the Jewish people as a whole, right? So to make the claim that, well, a bill like this would make the Bible banned is absolutely, positively false, because obviously these people don't know the Bible. And the reason why this is concerning is because, as you and I have done other projects before on race and racism and things like this, usually it's the liberal side that takes a handful of people from a group and then applies that to the whole group, like slavery, right? Well, all white people are bad, or this group and all these people are bad because of a handful of people, right? Yeah. And in this particular instance, it's the Republicans doing the same thing. saying that it's all Jewish people, that crucified Jesus, when it really wasn't. It was like a handful of people. And so this is why I started to look at it, right? And so you got these fools over here.
For the for this bill on the YouTube video. We'll put a link for it so they can look at it themselves as well. We got to get to a couple other videos. So I know we're probably gonna be circling back to this. This is not the end of the game when it comes to the anti-Semitic bills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of local stuff in certain states going on as well. So we'll have to circle back to some of those as well. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Clark County Superintendent video. I'm curious about that one. So let's take a look at that one. Let's take a look at that one, see what's going on with that one. So here we go.
Oh, you're gonna flip when you see this.
All right, so here we go.
Folding in the Clark County School District, this time surrounding raises former Superintendent Dr. Jesus Jara gave out on his way out to his cabinet before he left in February. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. Some of the raises are equivalent to a teacher's salary. Our Crisis in the Classroom investigative reporter Tiffany Lane is live here in studio after speaking with educators who say this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's right. They're confused and frustrated more than anything, especially with hundreds of teacher openings in the district and some on the staff barely making ends meet.
We have educators out here that are losing their homes, that are going to food banks because they're food insecure. There's so many things that are wrong with this picture. And again, it makes the public not trust our district.
Elementary school teacher Kristen Nigro is mad. Former CCSD top boss Dr. Jesus Jara gave out $323,000 in salary increases to 13 members of his cabinet before he left the district in February. This while there are currently 1,400 teacher openings.
It's no secret that the vacancies are really, really disgustingly high numbers. So I'm just curious as to how does someone justify giving a raise that is more than the starting pay of a new educator?
What she's referencing is this. According to documents I obtained through a records request, CCSD Chief of Police Mike Blackeye received a 40% increase to his base salary, amounting to about $68,000. The deputy superintendent, who's now Jara's replacement, at least in the interim, received a $60,000 increase to her base salary, or a 28% increase. And Chief Financial Officer Jason Gowdy got a 24% increase, nearly $51,000. The remaining 10 employees all received 8% increases. Now, to put this in context, the starting salary for a teacher in CCSD is $54,000. So Dr. Larson Mitchell's increase in her base salary alone was more than the salary of a new teacher. Her salary is now $275,000.
I do find this a slap in the face to educators, and not only that, but I find it a slap in the face to our students here in CCSD, because again, we have so many classrooms with students that do not have a licensed educator in front of them.
I spoke with the executive director of the Clark County Education Association. That's the union with bargaining rights for educators in CCSD. John Velardita tells me the raises are unacceptable.
One, there's no transparency. Two, it increases the disparity in compensation at the top level to the frontline educator or the frontline support staff.
This is not the first time Jara has come under fire for cabinet raises. Back in October of 2021, the School Board of Trustees voted 4-3 to terminate his contract for convenience. And just a few days later, he released a memo announcing more than $400,000 in raises for several of his executive cabinet. In November of the same year, the board voted 4-3 to take back his firing.
The first time Jara was buying loyalty, this time he rewarded loyalty. So it was consistent with his type of administrative philosophy.
Now, another thing to note is that Jara was able to approve these raises without having to have the approval of the School Board of Trustees. Some saying a superintendent should not have that much power to make those types of decisions. We have requested an interview with the three officials, the three cabinet members we mentioned there.
All right, so
I think that speaks for itself. Go ahead. I want to hear what you have.
Here's one thing I was saying. Number one, before we get into Mr. Jara, Some of the characterizations are a little bit interesting. The teacher who's making comments, a lot of the reasons, there's several reasons. We're not the only city that has shortages on teachers. And $54,000 is a lot more than a lot of people make. But, and they have 3 months off, and they've got other perks. They have basically free insurance. So, yes, I get that part of it. And I used to be of the mind that, oh, teachers are way underpaid. To a point, I mean, if you think about it, their issue, I think that's a stress related issue. Why it used to be that you wanted a good educator who knew what they were doing. Now you can't get teachers because there's violence in classrooms, there's violence in the schools, the teachers feel unprotected, they have these core curriculums that don't teach kids, the parents aren't involved, and so the teacher's job is hard, and so no one wants to be a teacher. It's kind of like the BLM stuff with police. They can't get police now because they've made it so unappealing to get that job. That's one thing. Number two, Mr. Yara, he will say this. He did improve the district to a point. One of the issues is that the Clark County School District is very large. Most cities, when they get this big split off, like Henderson or other parts of town, should have their own school districts so that one entity is not have all the power, because that gives these people kind of the emphasis on, okay, I can, do what I want, so him giving raises, obviously he has a history of controversy with whether he's, effective, whether he was, a lot of teachers didn't like him, a lot of teachers did like him. Sometimes it's a personal thing. I think the problem with the giving the raises is that, obviously, like you said, and I think that's accurate, he was rewarding individuals who stood behind him and supported him. But the raises, two things I look at that, two things. If it's a very long-term employee, okay, that person should get more salary than a brand new teacher. That's number one. Because if you're a 10, 20-year veteran in your industry, you're not going to get the same as a person walking in. You're going to get more. So I don't disagree with raises. It's the amount of the raises that's the problem, right? Giving merit raises is one thing, and we don't know what's behind the raises. It sounds a little suspicious.
Well, we're 49th out of 50th in the whole country, so they didn't earn a raise.
That data is really not accurate, because I've been to school districts in California that were absolute garbage, and 3/4 of them were students that didn't even speak English. So for them to tell me, no, I have friends in Stockton, California, whose teachers have 31 students in the class and 28 don't speak English. You're telling me their scores are higher? I don't think so. That stuff, the teacher association stuff and unions, you can never trust that stuff, because what they're pushing is states that give a whole bunch of money. You can't solve a problem by throwing money at it. That's been proven a million times. Yeah, Georgia might spend more money on education than we do here, but Georgia wastes a bunch of money, and they have corrupt politicians there as well. So I don't look at those numbers because they're not always accurate. Now, what I will say is there's a ton to be improved here. I will say my kids have done very well. I think the biggest thing is from A to Z across the country, they have lowered standards for everybody. So I'm not even sure what those scores mean, to be honest with you, because they spend more time on LGBT stuff than teaching kids. And so, I mean, what are those scores really saying? I don't buy any of it. I think we're probably middle of the pack, to be honest with you. Just talking to people that I've moved into my neighborhood from Idaho and from Texas and California, the things that I hear, we're probably middle of the pack. So you can't just throw money at something and say it solves a problem. But last thing I'll say is, obviously these administrators don't deserve $500,000 or $300,000. We know that. I think the issue is, yeah, they can have merit raises. Inflation sucks right now, but I'd give a 10% raise, but not the kind of raises he's giving. And I would set the teacher's first year salary at $60,000, and then every 2 years you get an inflationary increase plus a merit increase based on their performance. That's what I would say.
Well, a couple things, right? I have a little bit of insight because I know a few teachers. My sister-in-law is a teacher,
I do as well.
and right, and that $54,000, right, is not what they started off with. She's been in the school district for 20 years, right? So some of these that salary is not reflective in what some of the tenured people are getting.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who's in Stockton. She gets 48,000. Stockton, and cost of living is here.
Right, they have to buy their own supplies. Well, that's why they're asking. They always ask for donations every semester. Right, there's donations, there's fundraisers. Please go to McDonald's. Please go to the yogurt place. Right.
Maybe the school district's got to run more efficiently. Stop.
I agree.
English
The
as
school
a language and kids that can't speak English, and passing the tax dollar requirement on you and I.
And the other problem is, well, I had a unique experience a few years ago during COVID. I worked nights, so I was home during the day. And during COVID, my daughter went to school online, like everybody did. But the difference was I worked nights, so I woke up and I took her entire year of school with her. And the things that they taught and the way they taught was like ridiculous. It made me furious. But then when you have conversations with the teachers, and me, I like to talk, right? It comes out the teachers are all discouraged because they're like, well, this is not how I want to teach. This is how I'm told to teach. They're literally micromanaged to the minute. You have to spend 12 minutes, not 10, 15, 12 minutes on this particular subject. You have to teach it this particular way.
Yeah, well, blame teachers unions for pushing this core curriculum. If they got rid of teachers and their salary who don't teach, who aren't very good, instead of having to go through, you've seen the steps they got to go through to fire a teacher. If they could fire teachers that don't teach properly and keep the good ones, they could increase their salary immediately.
Well, here's the problem with that. The problem is they didn't get a raise for years. The other problem is, the other problem is that you can't tell because they're not allowed to use their own teaching style. That's the point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You know what I mean?
But a lot of them are very inept. I've seen a lot of them. There's teachers in California that I have that should never have been teaching.
Oh, there are some terrible teachers.
But the problem is you have to go through hell and high water to get rid of a teacher. And then they stick around, collect a salary, and instead of that money being given as merit raises to others, or maybe substitute teachers who want to teach, who are good, they're kept out. So the system is corrupt and it's rigged.
Yeah, they don't get merit raises. There's no such thing anymore. I don't like not in any industry. At least none of the industries that I know of. Yeah. Because when I've asked that question outside of teaching, the response is, well, who's to say? Who's like, who's to define, what? How did he say it? I asked somebody about that at my job, and they said, well, we can't give merit raises because who's to say, like, who's better, and what defines as being deserved.
That's ridiculous. That's the same thing as
I agree. That's dumb.
Diversity, equity, inclusion garbage. Where
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and you know what? There's not even equality of outcome in my freaking family. So you know what? My brother is better at something, and he worked hard at a particular skill than me. So do I want the best pilot flying my plane, or do I want the most equitable person? Do I want a surgeon? Do I want a surgeon working on my mom to save her life, who was chosen by diversity, DEI, or do I want the best surgeon? Give me a break. It's stupid. It's just stupidity talking. All right, let's go to the last.
I agree.
We got 6 minutes. We got to get the last video in here.
All right, this one's relatively quick.
So here we go. Let's roll with the next one here. And boom.
Church turned into chaos for a group of parishioners as a gunman walked up to the front pew and tried to fire his weapon directly at the pastor. We should warn our viewers, some might find these images disturbing. A Sunday afternoon church service dramatically interrupted. The terrifying incident at Jesus' Dwelling Place Church in North Braddock, Pennsylvania, unfolding on a live stream, showing a gunman identified by police as 26-year-old Bernard Jr. Polite approached Pastor Glenn Germany and attempted to shoot, but the gun didn't go off.
It clicked. You heard him shoot it. It clicked. So God jammed the gun so that the bullet didn't come out.
The deacon, sitting just feet away, leapt into action.
The man had his back turned towards me, and I could see he would never see me coming.
Both men wrestling the weapon from the gunman's hands. In the church at the time, 25 congregation members, including the pastor's daughter.
He stood up and he smiled at me, and it was just a smile.
The pastor actually speaking with the gunman.
He said, look, spirits was in my mind. He said that they got in my mind and they told me come in and shoot the pastor. He actually apologized to me. I told him that I forgive you and I want you to know I love you.
What could have been a devastating...
Wow. I saw this the other day and I was stunned, and I thought, people are going to say, oh, it just didn't go off. You know what? Maybe that was an act of God, but what I find interesting, John, is that people are getting more brazen. There was the guy a couple weeks ago that was stabbed
in Australia. That guy's famous.
They're getting.
They're
doing, and that's the scary part is.
Yes.
I go to church and I think everything's calm and great. What if some crazy guy, and they have a mental health problem in a lot of countries, and especially ours, where I know that. Okay, he says that the devil got in him and he was, told to do it. But it seems like this stuff's happening more often. Maybe we're just hearing about it more because of the video and all the.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, to see this stuff play out so often.
You don't see it. Here's what you don't see. You don't see people walking into mosques. You don't see people walking into Buddhist temples, right? You see them going into synagogues and churches.
It blows my mind, John. It's scary because that could be anywhere, anytime. Someone decides that it's some entity is speaking to them, and all of a sudden you don't know, it could be on a subway. Like people have done things on subways in New York.
Yes.
Churches, in malls. Wherever, and it's a mental health crisis. We've got a serious problem, and it's the violence and the casualness of this stuff seems to be pervasive and increasing, unless we're just seeing it more than we did before. But it's scary. We have families.
You know what? I've heard people explain stuff away like that. Like you say, well, there's more school shootings now than before. No, they always happen. They just never reported. Bullshit. We all know. We all have parents that have been around, for a long time, and you didn't see kids walking into school shooting them up, right? You didn't see people walking into churches shooting them up, not like this.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to make an excuse for it. I'm thinking of why am I seeing it more? And it used to be, and I'm sure things got reported. Maybe it wasn't quite as fast, but when we were in our teens, early 20s, the stuff, Columbine was shocked everybody.
Yes.
It was completely out of the blue, right? And that was like 1 in a million kind of an event. And so I think, but that stuff is happening, seems like it seems like every 2 or 3 weeks we're having an incident of some kind. And it's hard for me to believe that the mental health is that much worse from 20, 30 years ago. Or is it that there's just no law and order, and there's a mental health problem, and we don't have God in our country. We're shaming people who believe in God. We're shaming churches.
Yes.
We're shaming people who profess to God, and we're giving attention to these idiots, these anti-Israeli protesters, giving a credence to people who say and do crazy things on TikTok and those other places. The world is gone. It's all about getting attention. It seems like I'm going to do something crazy so I can get attention or whatever, combined with no God in our country and a mental health crisis, like all three combined to create this perfect storm. I can't explain it any other way, John. I don't know.
I think you did a pretty good job. Media influence, right? Mental health problems brought on by increased stress, and I guess the elephant in the room that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, but it's a spiritual thing. You got if you believe in the Bible, then you believe in the devil, right? He can use the media, he can use the stress, he can use whatever he wants, right? But in the end, right, we know that he is the one who does not want like God having an influence in this world.
Well, hopefully the proof with the pastor, that whole thing, and you know what? Hopefully that guy that did that shooting, for example, comes to Jesus, or the question's going to be really like, will he has a clear mind, know exactly what he did, or have we've gone so far from the spiritualness of church and family that people are so lost and so deviant, and so the devil is just saying, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to create havoc in the world in every way possible. So about 45 seconds. Did you want to say any last words before we head out to our families?
I want to say that we're parents, right? Not just us two, but anybody who's watching. And these issues are serious issues that affect our children, because one of the things I'm concerned about is not me, because I'm old enough and tough enough after living in this world for 50 years, but my little kid who's growing up in this craziness.
Yeah.
So that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
So we want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, we love you guys, and we really want you guys to comment, subscribe, like us, and we are going to be working in conjunction with another YouTube gentleman very soon to kind of promote the channel more. So thank you for watching again, John. Have a great night. We'll see you guys later. Take care of your family.
Peace.
Peace.